Hey everyone, I'm Mike Settele, and in this video, I'm going to take practice SAT number 9 for the first time in the Bluebook app. Now, a couple of things. First of all, just make sure you do not watch this video unless you yourself have taken practice test 9 already. I'm going to spoil the questions. That's literally the point of taking the practice test. So I will give you explanations as I see them and solve questions as I encounter them, but you need to do that yourself first. So you want to make sure for every practice test, you're doing whatever you can to use it yourself without any spoilers. So just make sure you do not watch this video until you've taken that test. The other thing that's important about this test is, in a way, I am not sure if I'm actually going to be seeing these questions for the first time. Practice tests 8, 9, and 10 were all created as like a Frankenstein monster out of tests 1, 2, and 3, which you can see are missing. So I've already taken practice test 8. That's another video, and I've seen many questions in that practice test that were also in previous practice tests that I've worked on before with students. So I had maybe a little bit of an advantage in that I already not necessarily knew the answers, but kind of knew my way around the question. So I don't think there were many moments like that. I recognize lots of questions, but it doesn't mean you memorize the answer. So we're going to see if practice test 9 has any issues like that. But regardless, if you have taken practice tests 1, 2, and 3, you're probably fine to trust practice tests 8, 9, and 10. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's probably because practice tests 1, 2, and 3 died out years ago. And so you don't have anything to worry about. This is just a normal practice test for you. That's totally fine. But if I recognize a question and it gives me an advantage, I will tell you as I go through so that you can see. But otherwise, let's just get right down to it. We're going to take the test. We're going to start with the first reading module. So let's hit next here and let it get going. I've got my scratch paper. Let's move it into place. I'm probably not going to use it for the first few questions because we are going to go right to the grammar, as always with these practice tests or any test. I want to start with grammar to lock in some easy points. So here we go. And we're going to predict the rule. This looks like the to and ing rule. For thousands of years, people in the Americas have used the bottle gourd, a large bitter fruit with a thick rind, to make bottles, other types of containers, and musical instruments. Yeah, people in the Americas have used the bottle gourd. Yeah, it's the only thing that makes sense. Okay, it's about question marks. So do we have a question? If these plants were grown in alkaline soil alongside grasses that aid in iron solubilization, could the blueberries thrive? Whoa, okay. I think this is an actual question. Could the blueberries thrive? I think I've seen this question too, but I don't remember the answer. If these plants were grown in alkaline soil alongside grasses that aid in iron solubilization, could the blueberries thrive? Michael was determined to find out. So it's definitely not this, because it's not a question if it's C. And if it's going to be a question, it needs a question mark. So the only other option is B. If these plants were grown in alkaline soil alongside grasses that aid in iron solubilization, the blueberries could thrive. But then if they could, then why would this guy need to find out? Or girl, Lucia. Yeah, it's this. This is just weird because we don't usually, when they offer a question mark, we don't usually actually need one. So, but anything can happen. Okay, so I'm already leaning towards this because if there's 2 sentences, that's kind of game over. We need this answer. The chemical whatever counters this effect, ensuring that proteins retain their original configurations. That's a sentence. TMAO is found in high concentrations in the cells of the deepest dwelling fish. That is a sentence. No other choice allows me to join 2 sentences or separate 2 sentences. Okay, plural, 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 singular, so it's probably D. Mathematician Grigory Perelman, sometimes in conjunction with mathematicians Richard S. Hamilton and Xing-Tu Yao, is credited, with proving the point. I don't know how to pronounce any of these names. So Grigory is credited because this is an extra clause, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, singular. Done. Okay, so we've got C and A, which require us to think about sentence structure. If there's 2 sentences, we're kind of done. We need either A or C. So let's do that first. Jetties can sometimes have the opposite effect. That is a sentence. Obstructing the natural flow of sand along the shore can lead to increased erosion in some areas. That is a sentence. So it's not B and it's not D. Now, where does the though go? It has to do with where the contrast is. I think it's going to be A because I think we would need a comma in order to use that. So let's see. Jetties, long, narrow structures that extend from a landmass into the water, are often constructed to protect coastlines from erosion. But jetties can sometimes have the opposite effect. Yeah, there's clearly a contrast there. Obstructing the natural flow of sand along the shore can lead to increased erosion. Yeah, definitely that. Connector placement rule. Very easy to recognize and follow. Okay, so these are both but words, so it's probably not one of those, but let's see. Archaeologist Sue Brunning explains why the 7th century ship burial site at Sutton Hoo in England was likely the tomb of a king. First, the gold artifacts inside the ship suggest that the person buried with them was a wealthy and respected leader. The massive effort required to bury the ship would likely only have been undertaken for a king. First, second, right? Yeah, seems obvious. Okay. These all mean different things. Earth's auroras, colorful displays of light seen above the northern and southern poles, result, broadly speaking, from the sun's activity. The sun releases charged particles that are captured by Earth's magnetic field and channeled toward the poles. These particles then collide with atoms in the atmosphere. Yeah, so it feels like, for example, right? Or specifically means like, here's what's going on. Earth's auroras are from the sun's activity. For example, the sun releases charged particles that are captured by Earth's magnetic field. Yeah, it's not similar because it's the same thing. It's not but, and it's not so. Because Earth's auroras result from the sun's activity, so the sun releases no. Because the auroras are not causing the particles. The particles are causing the aurora. Okay. The coastal Virginia offshore wind project is anticipated to generate 2.6 gigawatts of energy, though enough to power almost 1 million homes. As its name indicates, the project currently in development consists of wind turbines located off the Virginia coast. The project plan calls for 176 large turbines to be placed at the site 27 miles east of Virginia Beach. What? As its name indicates, the project consists of wind turbines located off the inner, to be exact, maybe? That's like a for example, I guess. Because now we're giving the numbers, exact numbers of the number of turbines and the distance. In conclusion, what are they concluding? It's not a so, because it's to be exact. It's not a contrast. Yeah. All right, student wants to recount the sequence of events proposed by the researchers. Sequence proposed. Okay. According to researchers' simulations, 2 events likely occurred around 160 million years ago. First, Chrysalis came very close to Saturn, and second, debris from Saturn's rings caused the moon to break apart. Okay, that seems like an order of events. If a moon orbiting a planet like Saturn comes close enough to the planet, tidal forces can cause the moon to break apart. No sequences. Around 160 million years ago, a large moon Chrysalis came close enough to Saturn that tidal forces broke the moon apart. Its debris then formed the planet's rings. I mean, it's very loosely a sequence. The word then is definitely there, but I don't love it. First, researchers proposed that Saturn was orbited by a large moon. Next, they conducted simulations, and finally, they formed a hypothesis. Well, this is a sequence of how they did the research, but we want to know the sequence of events proposed by the researchers. So, yeah, I guess that's here. Proposed that Saturn was once orbited by a large moon. The simulations indicate that it would likely have come very close to Saturn. Second, debris from Saturn's rings caused the moon to break apart. Well, that's not quite the right thing. Hold on a second. First, Chrysalis came very close, and second, debris from Saturn's rings caused the moon to break apart. No. The moon is the rings. Around 160 million years ago, a large moon came close enough to Saturn that tidal forces broke the moon apart. Its debris then formed the planet's rings. Sneaky. This is just wrong. This sounds really good, but it's wrong. This is why I got to read everything. Emphasize the fossil's significance. So why is the fossil significant? Canadian paleobiologist, whatever fossil has the skull and teeth of a seal, which, like sea lions and walruses, is a pinniped. Okay, but does that make it? Why is it significant? Because it's like a pinniped? I don't know. Pinnipeds are descended from 4-legged land-dwelling carnivores. A fossil that resembles both was recently found. Why is it significant? Having 4 legs but the skull and teeth of a seal, the rare fossil illustrates an early stage in the evolution of pinnipeds from their land-dwelling ancestors. Why is it significant? It's an early stage in the evolution. A transitional fossil was recently found. Well, I mean, this is saying it's transitional, but why is it significant? It's significant because it's transitional. I mean, I think this is much more specific. It's emphasizing it much better. Having 4 legs but the skull and teeth of a seal, the rare fossil, right? Is that what the fossil is? A fossil with 4 legs, webbed toes, and skull and teeth of a seal. Yeah. I mean, I think that's right. Difference. I've done this one. Guerdon, the final word, is of Anglo-French origin, while the following year's word derives from ancient Greek. That sounds like a difference. In 2008, this person won the Scripps National Spelling Bee by correctly spelling the word whatever. However, the following year, she won by spelling the other word. But that's not about the origins of the two words. This person won the spelling bee just doing one word. This doesn't say anything about the origins, obviously. A similarity. I think I've seen this one too. Monkman, a Cree artist, finished the painting in 2019. Lutz, a German-American artist, completed his in 1851. Well, that's not a similarity. That's a difference. Although Monkman's painting was inspired by Lutz's, the people and actions are very different now. Difference. Lutz and Monkman's paintings are both huge. That sounds like a similarity. Lutz's painting depicts Revolutionary War soldiers, while that sounds like a contrast. His other, okay, so yeah, definitely that. So these are really easy. Now we go to the front. Making great time here, less than 10 minutes. Researchers have struggled to pinpoint specific causes for hiccups, which happen when a person's diaphragm contracts. However, neuroscientist whatever has found that these uncontrollable contractions may play an important role. So I've seen this question before. Which happen when a person's diaphragm contracts uncontrollably. Involuntarily means that. Yeah. I've seen this one too. These names. You recognize the names more than anything, even though I don't bother pronouncing them. Ophelia Zepeda's contribution to the field of linguistics are blank. Her many accomplishments are many, right? Her contributions are many. Yeah. Extensive. Some researchers believe that the genes that enable groundhogs and certain other mammals to hibernate through the winter by slowing their breathing and heart rates and lowering their body temperature may be blank in humans. Present, yet having essentially no effect. Okay, so you're just look at how easy, they're just giving you the definitions to these words. So we need something that means present, yet having little no effect. So dormant. Something is dormant, it's asleep. It's there, but not effective. So yeah. Okay. Although science fiction was dominated by mostly by white male authors, when Octavia Butler, a black woman, began writing, she did not view the genre as blank, as dominated. Butler broke into the field with the publication of several short stories, and she later became the first science fiction writer to win a prestigious MacArthur Fellowship. So she did not view the genre as, like closed, dominated by others, impenetrable. Yes. Okay. I think I knew every single one of those vocab questions, not because I remember the answers, but because I've seen the question. Now, regardless of that, just to be clear, this is a difference between me remembering a question and you remembering a question. If you remember a question, it's very likely that at some point in reviewing it originally, the first time you saw it, you would have looked up the word dormant, right? You might have gotten something like this one wrong because you just don't know what dormant means. Or involuntarily. Like, these aren't terrible words, but it's possible if you didn't know that word, that might have been the reason you got it wrong. But then you look up the word, and then hopefully the second time you remember the word, and then you're able to get a question right that because you studied a specific word that you'd already encountered. The odds of your real SAT having that specific word again is very low. So you are micro-targeting vocab in a way that gets you practice test questions right, but won't get you questions right on the real SAT. So if that's a reason that maybe on this test you're doing better, you got to make sure you are really studying vocab, because you have proven that vocab is a big difference in your score. So you got to make sure you study vocab beyond what's on the tests, on the practice tests. So yeah. That kills me. Okay. Point of the underlined sentence. Oral histories, whether they consist of interviews or recordings of songs and stories, can offer researchers a rich view of people's everyday experiences. For her book about coal mining communities in Kentucky during the 20th century, Karita Brown therefore relied in part on interviews with coal miners and their families. By doing so, she gained valuable insights into her subjects' day-to-day lives. Okay, so she's just saying what she did. I don't know. It provides little known geographical fact. No, there's no geographical fact. It argues that Karita Brown is an expert. Well, I don't know. It just says she gained insights. I don't know if that means she's an expert. Presents a major historical event that took place in the 20th century? No, because it's about her. It describes how Karita Brown benefited from incorporating, because she could get insights into their day-to-day lives. So easy. Main purpose. Martha is employed by Miss Pine as a maid. Miss Pine sat by the window watching in her best dress, looking stately and calm. She seldom went out now, and it was almost time for the carriage. Martha was just coming in from the garden with the strawberries and with more flowers in her apron, was a bright, cool evening in June. The golden robins sang in the elms, and the sun was going down behind the apple trees at the foot of the garden. The beautiful old house stood wide open to the long-expected guest. Okay, it's just like a description of things. To convey the worries wrought by a new guest. Is this a negative passage? I don't think so. Yeah, it seems pretty nice. I don't see worry. Right, wrong connotation. To describe how the characters changed over time? No, there's no time passing. To contrast the activity indoors with the stillness outside? She's calm inside. I don't feel like it's activity inside. To depict the setting as the characters await a visitor's arrival. Yeah, they're watching. It says expected guest. Yeah. Main purpose. Henry Higgins has just arrived at the house of his mother. She's expecting her friends to visit soon. Mrs. Higgins, I'm serious, Henry. You offend all my friends. They stop coming whenever they meet you. Nonsense. I know I have no small talk, but people don't mind. Oh, don't they? Small talk indeed. What about your large talk? Really, dear, you mustn't stay. Okay, so she hates her own son. To describe what Henry's mother does when she goes out with her friends? No, she's talking to her son. To show that Henry's mother wants him to leave? Yes. It really says you mustn't stay. Ooh, what happens when we highlight all this? To present a detailed account of what Henry's home looks like? No. To explain why Henry often visits? Often, big problem word, but he doesn't often visit. He's there just this one time. Okay. This is really easy so far. Yeah, okay. Underline portion. Okay. In response to concerns that some recent financial crises were exacerbated by consumers misunderstanding risks associated with credit cards, loans, and other financial products, policymakers in many countries have instituted risk disclosure requirements on sellers of those products. Okay, so there's a policy. Solving a problem. This person investigated a variety of risk disclosure messages sent to thousands of credit card customers and found that the messages had only small and short-lived effects. Small effects on behavior. They asserted that such effects may nevertheless be worth pursuing given the negligible cost messaging. Saying that there's a low cost. Negligible means low, right? It barely registers. It notes a factor that led these people to not dismiss risk disclosure messaging altogether despite their evidence. Yeah, right? So what is the factor? The factor is that it has a low cost. And there is evidence of its limited utility because it is small and short-lived. So let's just look at the others. In B, it acknowledges a type of risk disclosure messaging that Sarah et al. May not have fully accounted for. No, it's not giving me another type. It describes a consideration that explains why they recommended risk disclosure messaging, even though its effects may be small relative to its costs. Ooh, I think people are going to make a mistake here. It describes a consideration that explains why they recommended risk disclosure messaging. So that's so far true. That's all true. Here's the problem. Even though its effects may be small relative to its costs, that is, in a weird way, saying that the costs are high. If the effects are small relative to the cost, that means it's not worth the cost. The cost is high, the effects are small. We are purposely saying the cost is low, but this is going to be tempting because people are going to pick the word. They just like the word cost. They just see the word cost and they're like, yep, good, yay. Ooh, that's a trap. It points out a circumstance that these people conceded may make risk disclosure messaging more effective than their study suggests. No, it's not about more or less effective. It's a factor that led them to not dismiss it, right? It has limited utility, but we're not going to dismiss it because it has a low cost. Yeah, that's it. Oh, I'm going to bookmark that mostly because I see a trap. And it's possible I'm falling for something else, but people are going to pick C here. Okay, this is definitely a question I've seen before. Mrs. Ochiltree, you don't forget a name like that. Mrs. Ochiltree was a woman of strong individuality. We need to do her acquaintances, whose comments upon her acquaintances, present or absent, were marked by a frankness at times no less than startling. This characteristic caused her to be more or less avoided. Mrs. Ochiltree was aware of this sentiment on the part of her acquaintances and rather exulted in it. Exulted means she's enjoying it. They try to refrain from discussing topics that would upset Mrs. Ochiltree. No, it's that the friends don't like her that much. They are unable to spend as much time with most Mrs. Ochiltree as she would like. No, they don't like her. They are too preoccupied with their own concerns to speak with her. No, it doesn't say they're busy. They are likely offended by what Mrs. Ochiltree has said about them. Yes. Yeah, a frankness. No, that's startling. Yeah. Yeah, she makes comments about them. That's literally what it says. Okay. I remember this too. This is definitely a question I've seen before. Mrs. Spring Fragrance. Again, you don't forget a name like that. So what is the claim? Okay, it's a short story. A Chinese immigrant living in Seattle is traveling in California. In letters to her husband and friend, she demonstrates her concern for what's happening at her home while she's away. So concern, we got to make sure we hit that negative. My honorable cousin is preparing for the Fifth Moon Festival and wishes me to compound for the occasion some American fudge, for which delectable sweet made by clumsy hands you have slight prejudice. No, this is just about a cake. Next week, I accompany this person to the beauteous town of San Jose. There will be met. No, this sounds positive. Forget not to care for the cat, the birds, and the flowers, not eat too quickly, nor fan too vigorously now that the weather's warming. Yeah, a concern for what's happening while she's away. Feed the cat. That's all this is saying. Feed the cat. I'm enjoying a most agreeable visit and American friends, as also our own, strive benevolently for the. No, none of this matters. This is obvious. Okay. Okay. Support the student's claim. Okay. Student asserts. So it's somewhere here. Student is examining a long, challenging poem that was initially published in a quarterly journal without explanatory notes, then later republished in a standalone volume containing only that poem and accompanying explanatory notes written by the poet. The student asserts that the explanatory notes were included in the republication primarily as a marketing device to help sell the standalone volume. Okay. Let me just think about this again. Let's get some scratch paper for this question. Okay. This is 11. A student is examining a long, challenging poem without explanatory notes, then later republished in a standalone volume containing, so it's challenging. So their marketing device, so notes because challenge. Okay. The text of the poem is published in the quarterly journal is not identical to the text of the poem published in the standalone. That has nothing to do with being a marketing device. Many critics believe that the poet's explanatory notes remove certain ambiguities of the poem, make it less interesting. No, if you're marketing something, you want to make it more interesting. So including the notes is, good. The publishers of the standalone, publishers of the standalone volume requested the explanatory notes from the poet in order to make the book attractive to readers who already had a copy of the poem in a journal issue. Okay, maybe. I mean, it certainly makes it more attractive. That's good. It's a marketing device. Correspondence between the poet and the publisher reveals the poet's explanatory notes went through several drafts. Who cares? I guess it's C. Right? Because they're trying to market the standalone volume. If they requested it, it's making it more attractive to readers who already had a copy, right? Because the other one doesn't have the notes, so you give them something new. I don't know. I thought that was going to be harder. Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of time. And this looks easy. This is a very easy looking chart graph. Support. Okay. Many plants lose their leaf color when exposed to kanamycin, an antibiotic produced by some soil microorganisms. Spelman College biologists and her colleagues emphasized that plants' response to kanamycin exposure involves altering their uptake of metals, such as iron and zinc. The researchers grew two groups of seedlings, half of which were exposed and half of which were control, and measured the plant's metal content. Okay, so the hypothesis was increase of kanamycin involves altering their uptake of metals, such as equals some sort of change. So they haven't specified whether it's an up or a down, but something's going to change, right? So if we look at it, these rectangles are different than these rectangles, especially for iron. So let's see. The control plants contained higher levels of zinc than iron. No. But plants exposed to kanamycin contain higher levels of iron than zinc. It's the opposite, right? Both groups of plants contain more than 200 parts. Okay, but that's not. We need to talk about how the kanamycin affects things. Just saying that they're higher numbers doesn't mean anything. Zinc levels are around 300 parts per million in the control plants. Zinc. But nearly 400 parts per million in the plants exposed. No, that's opposite. Am I crazy here? The plants exposed to kanamycin show lower levels of iron and zinc. Yes, so it affected it. The others are just wrong. I feel like I've seen this question before. Jupiters. Support. Sometimes they say weekend, so you got to pay attention to that. Hot Jupiters. It's a good name for a band. Are gas planets that have a mass of at least 0.25 Jupiters, meaning their mass is at least 25% of that of Jupiter, and an orbital period of less than 10 days, meaning that they complete one orbit around their star in less than 10 days, while warm Jupiters are gas planets that meet the same mass criterion but have orbital periods of more than 10 days. In 2021, this person announced the discovery of 5 new gas exoplanets and asserted that 4 are hot Jupiters and 1 is a warm Jupiter. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna need to read these stupid numbers. I can already tell because they don't say things here. None of the planets have an orbital period of more than 10 days. Okay, is that true? No, that's just not true. So let's just do that first. Let's get rid of some things that have wrong numbers. 1478. 1478 has an orbital period of 153 days. No, it doesn't. All the planets have a radius of between 0.060 and 0.1. Okay. And only 1333 has an orbital period of more than 10 days. It does not. Am I crazy? I mean, almost like I feel insane when I'm doing these questions. I'm checking for the accuracy of these things. Each of the planets has a mass greater than 0.25. Okay. And all except for 1478 have an orbital period of less than 10. Yes. And that means one of them is the warm Jupiter and the other, or one is warm and the others are hot. I don't care. But that's what we're saying. One is different than the other 4. Good. Yeah, I feel like a crazy person reading this and being like, are these numbers just wrong? But that's what they're doing. This is why I hate these questions. I feel very thrown off base. Okay, completes the text. Archaeologists and her team excavated the Egyptian tomb of Queen whatever, the wife of a first dynasty pharaoh. Some scholars claim that she also ruled Egypt on her own and was actually the first female pharaoh. The team found a tablet in her tomb with writings suggesting that she was in charge of the country's treasury and other central offices. Whether this person was a pharaoh or not, this discovery supports the idea that she was important. I don't know, right? Something like that. Had an important role in Egypt's government. I mean, lived after rather than before. No, we don't get time involved. Traveled beyond. No. Created a new form of writing. Oh my God. Okay. We're on the last question. I have 6 minutes left. Okay. This is very easy, this section. The widespread use of social media enables linguists to study changes in language usage in real time. A notable recent example is the proliferation of the affix Meng among speakers of Bahasa Indonesia, the official language of Indonesia. Linguists observe Meng originate as an onomatopoetic tag that social media users applied to images of cats they posted. Over time, users increasingly applied it as a prefix to existing words in text that they posted. From there, it has begun to move into spoken Indonesian. Linguists have noted many similar examples of this phenomenon in other languages, suggesting that social media... I mean, isn't this just kind of a sandwich here? Social media study changes in real time, right? And they applied it to images of cats, right? So they're using social media and it's changing the word as well. So linguists have noted occurring in other languages, suggesting that social media, how about something like shows or causes these changes? Is more useful for studying informal language than for studying formal? No, it's not a comparison. Appears to be exerting an exceptionally strong influence on the evolution. No, because it's not saying this one is better than all the others. Again, it's not a comparison. It's just this is the example they happen to choose. It may give linguists a somewhat misleading sense of how languages are changing. This seems very positive, this passage. This seems very negative. Does not merely register changes in language usage, but can facilitate. It's literally what I wrote. Shows and causes. Facilitate means cause. Cool. Okay. I only have one bookmark, and I really only bookmarked it because I think other people should bookmark it. This was a very easy section. Obviously, I would check for 4 minutes. I'm going to go back to this one and just make sure I didn't do anything wrong here because there's a bit to this one. Right. So yeah, it's given the negligible cost of messaging. So it's a reason to pursue it is what it is. So this is 8, right? Where's my thing? Okay, 8. Reason to pursue. It notes a factor that led these people to not dismiss, see how easy it is to misread a word? To not dismiss risk disclosure messaging altogether, despite their evidence of its limited utility, right? So it's a reason to pursue it, but instead of saying pursue, they say not dismiss, right? Double negative means the same. Okay. It acknowledges the type of risk disclosure messaging that these people may not have fully accounted for in their study. No, it's not a type of messaging. Gone. It describes a consideration that explains why they recommended risk disclosure messaging. True, even though its effects may be small relative to its cost. That end is so nasty. That's nasty. People are going to pick that. I mean, this is why you can't just say, oh, this word is in the passage, this word is in the choice. They do that on purpose. Notice that choice A, the right answer, is deliberately leaving out the word cost. It's using the word factor, which is much more vague, because they know it's not going to stick as much. But it's there, and here, relative to its cost, that's saying that its cost is high. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know yet. I won't know until the end, but I'm pretty sure that is a very nasty trap. Yeah. Just star that baby. D points out a circumstance that they conceded may make risk disclosure messaging more effective than there's no, because it's not about its effectiveness. It's about its utility. Maybe, how good is it? How useful is it? Not, is it effective? They're saying it's not effective. So yeah, I feel really good about this. I'm going to take a little break and get some water while the clock drains. On the real SAT, you can't do that. You have to let it go. And then there's no break in between this section and module 2. But it's a slight difference when you're videotaping yourself, you're talking. So you got to rehydrate. So we'll take a break here and then we'll get to the hard module. All right, 30 seconds left on the clock, but I'm just going to hit the next button. You can do that for the practice test. You cannot do that for the real exam. So we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to have to hit the grammar hard and fast. Here we go. 15, that's grammar. What about 14? Nope. Okay. I've seen this question before too. Her 2014 novel, so we got to think about the sentences. Boy Snowbird, for instance, is a complex retelling of the story of Snow White, while her 2019 novel Gingerbread, that's wrong. And this would be wrong too, offers a delicious twist on the classic tale. So there's no reason for a comma here, right? Her novel Boy Snowbird, so there's commas in there, but they're just for the title. And then the for instance is adding the commas. So there'd be no commas otherwise. Her 2014 novel Boy Snowbird is a complex retelling of the story of Snow White, while her 2019 novel Gingerbread offers there's no reason for a comma. The only reason you're picking it here is if you're scared of the commas. Seen this one too. Recently, engineer Erkka Frankberg of Tampere University in Finland used the chemical compound aluminum oxide to make a glassy solid that can withstand higher strain than silicate glass can before fracturing. So no commas necessary. This is just in a positive. It's just continuing the thought. Okay, so we got to look at this. We got a period. We got to look at this. We got a colon. So let's see. We have sentences here. And I've seen this one too. Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just equations. That is a sentence. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. That is a sentence. So it can't be this and it can't be this. Now, where does the though go? Which sentence is it in? In 1943, in the midst of World War II, mathematics professor Grace Hopper was recruited by the U.S. military to help the war effort by solving complex equations. But Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just equations. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. Yes. So the but has to go here because we're contrasting her war stuff with her subsequent career. So we want it to go in that second sentence, and that's what A does. Connector placement. Singular, 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 plural. All right, so it's probably that. The trailblazing accomplishments of Golden, winner of the 2023 Nobel Prize in Economics for her work on women in the labor force, attest. The accomplishments attest to the value of scholars of diverse backgrounds and spurring research to blah, blah, blah. Okay, yep. See, this is just why the singular plural thing is so useful. So this is probably to an ing or something. Let's see. Recent pollen analysis of the Aran Islands have led some researchers to propose that the now treeless islands were once wooded. This hypothesis suggests that certain trees survived without interruption or human intervention throughout the Holocene cannot stand unless other explanations can first be ruled out. Whoa. Is it this? This hypothesis suggesting that certain trees survive without interruption cannot stand unless other explanations. Wow, this is sneaky. It's definitely this. This is just a description. This hypothesis suggesting that certain trees survived without interruption or human intervention throughout the Holocene cannot stand. So this hypothesis cannot stand unless other explanations can first be ruled out. That's the sentence, and suggesting here is just descriptive. Lots of people are going to get this wrong. They're going to pick what I picked originally because they don't understand what's going on after all these commas. Oh, people are going to get that wrong. All right, this seems like past, present, future. Atoms in a synchrotron. I've seen this question. A type of circular particle accelerator travel faster and faster until they reach a desired energy level, at which point they are diverted to collide with a target, smashing the atoms, right? Because they travel faster and faster until they reach a desired energy level, right? It's present tense. Cool. I've seen this one. This is a modifier compared to that of alumina glass. So what are we talking about? We're talking about some quality of alumina glass. Silica glass, nope. Silica glass, no. No. The atomic arrangement of silica glass. So compared to the atomic arrangement of alumina glass, silica glass's atomic arrangement is more dispersed, resulting in a significant disadvantage. Here's a great example of a question. If you saw it before, you at least know what to think about. I bet you got it wrong before, and hopefully you watched my video and learned a lesson about it. But yeah, you're gonna have an advantage here. All right, let's move on. Okay, with his room-sized installation, Unicorn, My Private Sky, Norwegian artist, whatever, succeeds in creating a whimsical yet perplexing experience. When visitors set foot inside the fantastically blue room and encounter the life-size stuffed unicorn preening at the far end of it, they are both dazzled and confused, as if stepping into a strange and enchanting new world. Now notice that whimsical yet perplexing. What are some synonyms for whimsical? How about dazzled and confused would be a good example of a synonym of perplexing. So we're just repeating ourselves. So indeed seems right. We're repeating. These would be but, so no. And it's not a second. There's no first. So yeah. Okay, these probably mean both mean but, so that's probably wrong. Economist Eleanor Ostrom's studies of communities around the world have empirically demonstrated that common pool resources, such as grazing lands, can be sustainably managed by the people who use them rather than through private entities or centralized governments. Ostrom's work is a repudiation of the tragedy of the commons, the view that individuals will inevitably overexploit a finite shared resource if given unfettered access to it. So she's saying people can share things. Here she's saying it's refuting the idea that people can't share things. So as such, which means so, it's probably good here. Her studies around the world have empirically demonstrated that common pool resources such as grazing lands can be sustainably managed by people who use them rather than through private entities or centralized governments. So her work is a repudiation of the tragedy of the commons, the view that individuals will inevitably exploit a finite shared resource. People are going to pick A or C because they think it's a contrast. It's here's something that she says, here's something that she doesn't say. But this is where that strategy of two that mean the same thing is so useful. Similarity. Okay. Sean Tan's book, which describes surreal events occurring in otherwise ordinary places, contains fewer short stories. That's not a similarity. Tales from this was published, and okay, not a similarity. Unlike sounds like it's not a similarity. Sean Tan's books both describe surreal events occurring in otherwise ordinary places. The only one that is a similarity. And is that true? Yep. Present this study and its conclusions. Okay. The conclusion is the easier part, so let's focus on that. As part of 2013 study of cat domestication, a chemical analysis was conducted on cat bone fragments found in this place. What did they find? I don't know. A 2013 analysis of cat bone fragments found in this place suggests that cats there may have been domesticated 5,300 years ago. Okay, that sounds like the conclusion, yeah. In 2013, archaeologists studied what cats in China had eaten, but they didn't say what it was. Cat bone fragments were found. Okay, so they keep using the word found, as in finding or trying to lead us into findings, but it's not that, right? They found the bones in the dirt, I would assume, but it's the conclusion of the study. They may have been domesticated. All right, I'm explaining too much. The student wants to introduce the artist's poetry collection. Okay. Before she published the books, she exhibited these things. Well, it's not introducing it, really. Is a true interdisciplinary artist whose works include, okay, not introducing it. Published in 1983 by this thing as a collection of poetry, yeah. In 1971, exhibited her first solo art. No. These are so easy. Emphasize the aim of the research study. Okay. Researchers wanted to know which factors influence lizard egg clutch size because such factors have been well studied in birds but not in lizards. I mean, it's an aim. After they obtained data for over 3,900 lizard species, researchers determined that larger clutch size was associated with environments in higher latitudes that have more seasonal changes. That's not the aim, that's the conclusion of the research study. We now know that lizards in higher latitude environments may lay larger clutches to take advantage of shorter windows. That's, again, sounds like a finding. Researchers obtained clutch size and habitat data for over 3,900 lizard species and analyzed the data with statistical models. But what was the goal? What did they want to know? It literally says wanted to know. Yeah. All right. Within baleen whale species, some individuals develop an accessory spleen, a seemingly functionless, this is going to be important, formation of splenetic tissue outside the normal spleen. Given the formation's greater prevalence among whales known to make deeper dives, some researchers hypothesize that its role isn't functionless. Rather, the accessory spleen may actively support diving mechanisms. So it's not functionless, it has a use. So it's not, replicable means to copy, predetermined means that they decide something beforehand. Operative means functioning. So latent means it's not really being used. So functionless. Yeah. I think I've seen that question before. The province of something I can't pronounce was situated on the Pacific coast, hundreds of kilometers southeast of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. Because of this location within the emperor, so blank. Oh, it's peripheral. I've seen this question too. Yeah. So it's hundreds of miles away, hundreds of kilometers away. So it's in the emperor so far, out of the way, peripheral. Yep, another one you get right if you had done that question before. In 2016, Gabriela Gonzalez and team announced that a chirping sound captured by laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory antennas was direct evidence of gravitational waves, which skeptics had argued would be too faint for detection. Detailed statistical analysis helped preclude claims of the event's blank, confirming the signal at a confidence level. Oh, I'm having trouble with that. Okay, detailed statistical analysis help preclude means like rule out. Right? I think claims of the events. It was direct evidence of gravitational waves. Okay, direct evidence. They thought it would be too faint, but they found the evidence. Detailed statistical analysis help preclude claims of the events. I don't think any of these make sense. Confirming the signal. I mean, ambiguity means uncertainty. So if it's confirmed, it's not uncertain. Discretion, you show discretion by not saying something you're not supposed to say, right? So that has nothing to do with that. If something is inconspicuous, it's hidden, right? So details preclude claims of the event's inconspicuousness. So it's not obvious. I don't think that makes any sense. Probability. I mean, what does it mean for the confirming this? This is just a trap because they say confidence over 99%. There's no way that that's right. I think it's this, but I don't know. Okay. Political blogs with conspicuous ideological alignments became an integral component of U.S. media in the early 2000s, while some commentators praised this development, asserting that such blogs had a welcome transparency, missing traditional news. Less blank observers, so something negative here, countered that such blogs tend to be ideological extremes that exacerbate political polarization. So this whole thing is negative. This is a good example of think about this for a second and make sure you don't make a mistake, right? So while some commentators lauded, meaning praise this development, then we're going into this and we need this to be negative. But we have the word less in front, which is negative. So in order to do that, we need a positive word here. So sanguine means optimistic. Recalcitrant, that means stubborn. Misanthropic means kind of sad all the time. And earnest, that's positive. But less earnest. Earnest means you're trying really hard. Sanguine means optimistic. So that's what we're going to go with. Yeah, tough one. That's a new one. Okay. I've seen this one. Oh, deep delight to watch the gladsome waves of exultant leap upon the rugged rocks, ever repulsed yet rushing on, filled with a life that will not know defeat, to see the glorious hues of sky and see the distant snowy sails glide spirit-like into an unknown world, to feel the sweet enchantment of the sea, thrill all the soul, clearing the clouded brain, making the heart leap joyous at its own bright. Okay. So, okay. It portrays the surrounding as an imposing and intimidating scene. It sounds very negative. It doesn't feel negative to me. Right? And will not know defeat. That sounds pretty good. It characterizes these waves as relentless and enduring force. Ever repulsed. Will not know defeat. Yes. It conveys the speaker's ambivalence. No. It draws a contrast. No. Okay. All right. How would text 2 respond to text 1? Let's do 2 first. Ecologist Michael Barenfeld and colleagues have connected phytoplankton's diversity to their microscopic size. Because these organisms are so tiny, they are spaced relatively far apart from each other in ocean water and, moreover, experience that water as a relatively dense substance. This, in turn, makes it hard for them to move around and interact with one another. Therefore, direct competition among phytoplankton probably happens much less than previous thought. So, low competition. And the fact that they're spread out makes maybe a difference. But much less than previously thought. I'm going to guess that that's what text 1 is going to be about. Let's see. Ecologists have long wondered how thousands of microscopic phytoplankton species can live together near ocean surfaces competing for the same resources. According to conventional wisdom, one species should emerge after outcompeting the rest. So why do so many species remain? Ecologists made many efforts to explain this phenomenon, still haven't uncovered a satisfactory explanation. So he would say, yes. There is an explanation. They're spread out. So they don't compete, right? I already wrote this. I don't know why I'm wasting my time. By arguing that it is based on a misconception about phytoplankton species competing with one another? Yeah, because they don't compete. A misconception is something you don't agree with or is not true. By asserting that it fails to recognize that routine replenishment of ocean nutrients prevents competition. No, they don't talk about nutrients. By suggesting that their own findings help clarify how phytoplankton species are able to compete with larger organisms. They're not competing with larger organisms. By recommending that more ecologists focus their research on how competition is increased. No, it's not. No, it's that. Yeah. Okay. Why was it significant? Okay. For many years, the only existing fossil evidence of these things, an extinct family of large aquatic arthropods known as sea scorpions and related to modern arachnids and horseshoe crabs, came from 4 species living on the paleocontinent of Laurasia, or Laurussia. I don't know how to pronounce that. In a discovery that expands our understanding of the geographical distribution. So expands our understanding. These people have identified fossilized remains of new species on a different continent. New place. That's why it's significant. The fossil constitutes the first evidence found by scientists that they lived more than 400 million years ago? No, it's not about the time. Fossil helps establish that these things are more closely related to them. Nope. How fossil helps establish a more accurate timeline? No. Fossil constitutes the first evidence outside of Laurussia. Yes, it's about the location. Easy. I think I've seen that question too. What's statement about the diffrasismo? Oh my God, look at these words. Okay. Poetry and classical nahuatl, the language of the Aztec Empire, relies on this thing that I'm not going to pronounce, or a parallel noun construction that conventionally operates as a single metaphor. For example, the common thing, literally the eagle, the jaguar, signifies warrior. The device's function is both formal, providing structure to lines of verse, and ritual, semantic relations among two nouns, and then the concept they signify can be tenuous, as in the previous example, such that these things are often only intelligible according to the conceptual associations observed in this culture. So which statement is most... Okay, so they're hard to understand, right? They use the word tenuous, right? Tenuous, meaning weak. Okay. Its metaphorical significance derives from the semantic equivalence of the two nouns, but it says that they're different, right? The relation is tenuous, so it's not equivalent. So that seems wrong. Its unintelligibility may cause its formal function within a line of verse to go unnoticed by present-day readers, maybe because we don't know what we don't know how to speak the language. Its apparent obscurity can be resolved when considered in the proper cultural context. That's a little bit more positive. Its frequency in classical language poetry confirms its intelligibility. They talk about its frequency. Doesn't say anything about frequency. Okay. Its metaphorical significance derives from the semantic equivalent. I don't love that word equivalence. It means two things are equal, the two nouns. It says they're not equivalent, right? I mean, eagle, jaguar. And ritual. And the concept they say can be tenuous. Yeah, they're not equivalent. It's unintelligible to cause its formal function within the line of verse to go unnoticed. Well, I mean, the formal function is just provide structure. So whether I understand it, I understand the structure. So that doesn't seem right. Its apparent obscurity can be resolved when considered in the proper, yeah, right? It's if you understood the culture, it wouldn't be that, yeah. I mean, I think this is hard, but I think that makes sense. Ugh, I hate these so much. Oh, I know this question. This is a really hard one. I've seen this before. See, I'm going to get an advantage there, but I'm still going to skip it because I remember it being a pain in the ass. Okay. Support their claim. Okay. It's in here somewhere. These people have argued that experiencing awe, a sensation of reverence and wonder typically brought on by perceiving something grand or powerful, can enable us to feel more connected to others and thereby inspire us to act more altruistically. Okay, so that seems like the claim. I don't like that it's early. So increase in awe equals increase in altruism means helping. They claims to have found evidence of its effect in a recent study where participants were asked to either gaze up at exceptionally tall trees in a nearby grove or stare at the exterior of a nearby nondescript building. After 1 minute, an experimenter deliberately spilled a box of pens. So if you are staring at the tree, right, the trees, you're going to help more, is what this means. Participants who had been looking at the trees helped the experimenter pick up significantly more pens than did participants who had been looking at the building. That seems right. I don't know if we have to... Are we counting the pens? Let's keep going. Participants who helped the experimenter pick up the pens use a greater number of positive words to describe the trees and the building in a post-experiment survey that did participants who did not help the experimenter. But their claim, right? Their claim is not about the words that they use. I don't think that matters. Participants who did not help the experimenter to pick up the pens were significantly more likely to report having experienced a feeling of awe. No, because that means awe comes from not helping, regardless of whether they look at the building. No, because they're saying the building and the trees matter. So we need to support that claim. Participants who had been looking at the building were significantly more likely to notice that the experimenter dropped the pens. No, because that's saying the building people are better. I think it's just A. My memory of this is that I maybe got it wrong the first time I did it, so I'm going to bookmark that just in case I need to come back. I've seen this question. I still hate these kinds. Weaken. Let's do these. How am I doing on time? I feel like I'm going too slow. Okay. Okay. Political scientists who favor the traditional view of voter behavior claim that voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude towards the candidates in that election. Focusing on each, that's the claim. Who favor the traditional view. Yeah, claim voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude. Okay. Focusing on each U.S. presidential election, these people tested this claim by distinguishing between subjects who had just become old enough to vote, around half of whom actually voted, and otherwise similar subjects who were slightly too young to vote, and thus none of whom voted. Washington, okay, they compared the attitudes of the group's subjects toward the winning candidate 2 years after the election. So we're trying to weaken the idea that voting does not equal attitude. Therefore, what we're trying to do is actually say that voting does equal the attitude. So what is the difference between the two groups that vote or don't vote? There's the old group and the young group. Okay. Subjects' attitudes towards the winning candidate 2 years after a given election were strongly predicted by subjects' general political orientation, regardless of, no, because if it's saying regardless of whether they're old enough, it says the age doesn't matter. That's the whole point of this. Subjects who were not old enough to vote in a given election held significantly more positive attitudes towards the winning candidate 2 years later than they held at the time of the election. Okay, maybe. Subjects who voted in a given election held significantly more polarized attitudes toward the winning candidate 2 years later than did subjects who were not old enough to vote. I mean, that seems right just because it's contrasting these two things. 2 years after a given election, subjects who voted and subjects who were not old enough to vote were significantly more likely to express negative attitudes than positive attitudes. Okay, well, that's saying they're the same. I don't want them to be the same. Who voted in a given election held significantly more polarized attitudes, right? Because if they voted, that's going to affect the attitude. Then subjects who were not old enough. So if they didn't vote, then their attitude is not affected. Yeah, that's it. 13. Okay. 13. Logically completes. Among social animals that care for their young, such as chickens, macaque monkeys, and humans, newborns appear to show an innate attraction to faces and face-like stimuli. These people used an image of 3 black dots arranged in the shape of eyes and a nose or mouth to test whether this trait also occurs in testudo tortoises, which live alone and do not engage in parental care. They found that tortoise hatchlings showed a significant preference for the image, suggesting that basically social does not necessarily mean they like faces. Right? So anything can like faces is really what it is. Face-like stimuli are likely perceived as harmless by newborns of social species that practice parental care, but as threatening? No, it's not saying that turtles are scared. Researchers should not assume that an innate attraction to face-like stimuli is necessarily an adaptation related to social. Yes, because it could be anything. The turtles like it too. Tortoises. Researchers can assume that the attraction to face-like stimuli that is seen in social species that practice parental care is learned. No, it doesn't. We don't know. Newly hatched tortoises show a stronger preference. No, we're not comparing the children to the adults. Definitely that. Okay, this seems pretty easy. Let's see. All right. In a study of the cognitive abilities of white-faced capuchin monkeys, researchers neglected to control for the physical difficulty of the tasks. So that's important. Neglected to control for the difficulty. Anytime they say stuff like that, you got to pay attention. The cognitive abilities of monkeys given problems requiring little dexterity, such as sliding a panel to retrieve food, were judged by the same criteria as were those of monkeys given physically demanding problems, such as unscrewing a bottle and inserting a straw. The results of the study, therefore, are bad or flawed, something like that. Could suggest that there are differences in cognitive ability among the monkeys, even though such differences may not exist. Yeah, so because the study is bad. Are useful for identifying tasks that the monkeys lack the cognitive capacity to perform, but not for identifying tasks the monkeys can perform. I don't know what they can't perform. Should not be taken as indicative of the cognitive abilities of any monkey species. Well, no, it doesn't. It's a bad study, so it shouldn't. It's not that it's good for this imitator thing. Reveal more about the monkey's cognitive abilities when solving artificial problems and when solving problems encountered in the wild. They're not comparing artificial versus wild. So there you go. These are easy. Okay, let's do this one. All right, 6 minutes. Okay. It supports the conclusion. Okay. The solar cells convert light into electricity more efficiently than earlier kinds of solar cells, and manufacturing advances have recently made them commercially attractive. Okay, so that's maybe what this is about. One limitation of cells, however, has to do with their electron transport layer through which absorbed electrons must pass. Often the ETL is applied through a process called spin coating, but such ETLs are fairly inefficient at converting input power to output power. They tested a novel spray coating for, the team produced ETLs of various thicknesses and concluded that spray coating holds promise. So spin is worse than spray. Yeah. And it looks that way for both of them. Both the ETL applied through spin coating and the ETL applied through spray coating showed a power conversion efficiency greater than. No, I need to contrast the two. The lowest performing ETL applied through spray coating had a higher power conversion efficiency than the highest performing ETL applied through spin coating. Yeah, so the spray is better than the spin even on the highest performing one. That seems good, I guess. The highest performing ETL applied through spray coating showed a power conversion efficiency of approximately 13%. No, right? Highest performing ETL applied through spray. So spray is the gray. and that's highest performing. That's just wrong, I think. There was a substantial difference in power conversion efficiency between the lowest and highest performing ETLs. Yeah, but this is only talking about spray. We need to contrast spray and spin. Only B does that. Okay. 9. All right. I remember this one being a nightmare. I don't remember why it's a nightmare. I think it's because there's something backwards about the chart. Complete the statement. The population of the coral declined significantly around 9,000 years ago in the Alboran Sea and around 11,000 years ago near the Mauritanian coast. So, okay. 9,000 here, 11,000 here. Using the ratio of manganese to calcium, which inversely correlates with ocean oxygenation levels. Okay, so the ratio so if you increase the ratio, you're going to decrease with oxygen. They evaluated whether oxygenation played a role in the declines of El Pertusa. The researchers concluded that oxygenation may have been important in the Alboran Sea, but not the Mauritanian coast since. Okay. So the graph is talking about the ratio. The oxygen isn't on there at all. Okay. And okay. All right. So it matters. So what's going on? Okay, 9,000 in the Alboran. What's happening then? There's a big decline of something, of the ratio. Okay, which means there's a big increase in the oxygen. And then 11,000 in the whatever, Mauritanian, what's happening? There's nothing happening. So nothing happening to the ratio, which means that there's probably nothing happening to the oxygen. Okay. A substantial increase in oxygenation in the Alboran Sea corresponded with the local decline in El Pertusa, but the opposite relationship between oxygenation was found in the Mauritanian coast. Well, it's not an opposite, because there's nothing happening in the Mauritanian. El Pertusa declined in the Alboran Sea during a period of substantial local decline in oxygenation, but El Pertusa declined in the Mauritanian coast during a period of little local change. Okay, so just a little local change I like. Oxygenation in the Alboran Sea was higher before the decline than after the decline, whereas oxygen in the Mauritanian coast was relatively low both before and after. Well, this is the ratio being low. So the oxygenation should be high here, right? So I don't think that's right. Oxygenation in the Alboran Sea tended to be substantially higher than oxygenation in the Mauritanian coast. Yeah, but who cares? So I think it's this, declined in the Alboran, okay, during a period of substantial local decline in oxygen. This is saying oxygen is going up. But if we have to move from right to left here because the present is here, so we have to go this way. So if we're going from, let's say, 10,000 to 8,000, that's actually an increase in the ratio. So I have to flip this. It's an increase. So this would be a decrease. Decline in the Alboran Sea during a period of substantial local decline. Decline near the Mauritanian coast during a period of local, yeah. Yeah. That's so the things I remember that gave me an advantage on this question. I remember that the graph isn't telling you about the oxygen, the passages. And so you have to make this little chart or this little whatever equation. I also remember that you have to read it backwards because if this is the present and we're going years before the present, to the right is backwards in time. So if things are happening, you have to move forward in time, which is to the left. Yeah. So, for me, I definitely had a little bit of an advantage here in certain questions. Though I would say, I'm not going to check anything over. I think if I got anything wrong, it's probably this one. This one I don't understand at all. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what preclude means. Preclude claims of the events. Doesn't preclude just mean rule out? So details doesn't help because you're confirming something, you're getting rid of its ambiguity. I guess that's my guess there. But anyway, for a lot of these, yeah, if you knew the vocab words because you had studied that question before and seen it before, then you're going to have an advantage on that vocab question. And this is why, just in general with a practice test, you got to be careful where you get your practice because even years from now, when I'm taking this, years from now, when tests 1, 2, and 3 are long gone, and the spoilers from that to this test are not really an issue anymore, you're still going to have places where if you're not paying attention, some video, some YouTuber, some TikTok is going to spoil a question for you that then gives you an advantage on a practice test. And then you think you're doing really well. But it's only because you happen to keep seeing vocabulary words that you've seen before. So you already know the definitions when normally you would get to a test and there'd probably be some definitions you don't know and you have to guess. I know most definitions. That's not really an issue for me no matter what, but I can see that being an issue for some of you guys. And then in the passages, there are some that I definitely maybe don't remember the answer, but I remember the twist. I remember the weird thing. But that's probably less of an issue for anyone because you're not working on these questions the way I am. So, all right, break time and then math. I'm definitely tired, which is going to happen. So this break is important for you guys to take. And the first math section, if you're really good at math, should be a breeze, basically a way for you to rest your brain. So you're still doing questions, but at least you're on kind of like a low energy setting. So it's good. All right. As always, my reminder is if you're really taking a practice test, do the full break, get your time, rest your brain, but I'm a pro. Let's do it. Okay. All right. Which expression is equivalent? So we're going to have to add 2 and 1 is 3. And then -9 plus 1 is -8. John paid a total of $165 for a microscope by making a down payment of $37 plus P monthly payments of $16 each, which the following represents the situation. So 16 times P wouldn't be 37 times P. That's a single thing. 16 times P plus 37, right? The down payment plus the other stuff equals 165. Yeah. M in terms of N and P. So you're just going to divide by 7, which is going to put the 7 underneath these. So that should be this. Yeah. Yeah, so you can arithmetize this if you really want, but you should know enough algebra to know how to do that. It's just a single move. What is the value of G of 3? Okay. Notice how I go to scratch for something that's pretty easy. So radical 8 times 3 plus 1. So radical 24 plus 1, radical 25 is 5. Now, I could do all this in Desmos later. I don't know. I probably will. I can have the time. Okay. If one of the students is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a student whose vote for the new mascot was a lion? So one of the students, this is telling me it's everyone. So the denominator is 80. Right, so you're always making a fraction. Always focus on the denominator. But usually they're going to limit the denominator in some way. They're not doing that here. So 80 students. What is the probability of selecting a student whose vote for the new mascot was a lion? So we got to add 6th, 7th, and 8th. That's already added for me as 20. So that's 1 out of 4. We're going to type that into the calculator because it's possible. I'm being stupid. 20 divided by 80 is 1 over 4. Yeah, 0.25. Okay. Easy. Student council group is selling school posters for a fundraiser. They use the function to determine their profit for selling the posters in order to earn a profit of 900. Okay, so this is just solve for x 6. So 900 equals 5x minus 220. So add the 220. Now for me, I'm so good at algebra that this is just something I can do mindlessly, but I'm going to do the Desmos in a second because some of you are so bad at algebra that you should never trust yourself to do this. And you got to learn which category you're in. And you probably already know. So there you go. And let's do this in Desmos real fast. We are earning a profit of 900. So that's our P of x, 5x minus 220. And then it's going to tell me the answer by giving me a vertical line. So you just got to find it. And there it is, 224, exactly what I had. Yep. So you got to know how to do that, especially if you're bad at algebra. Just let Desmos solve things for you. Okay. What's the following appropriate linear model? So it's got a y-intercept of 10-ish. So not -10, not -10. And it's a negative slope. So it's got to be that. What is it? Okay, so here, anytime I have a system of equations where there's both x's and y's in both equations, I'm just going to type it in Desmos because the algebra is even riskier than it was before when I was doing algebra, and it's just easier on the brain to just see it. What is the value of y? It's 1. Now just make sure you typed everything right. So 3x plus 6 equals 4y, 3x plus 4 equals 2y. Yeah, so 1 is the value of y. Done. Cool. What is the maximum data value? 14. Right? Just look at this. As long as there's no zeros, this is everything in the set. These are just the numbers that tell you how many of each there are. So there are 6 14s. So the maximum is still 14, right? I don't care if there's 11 11s. That's the mode. But there's the 14 is the maximum, the highest value. That's a question I've seen before because I know lots of my students get that wrong. Circle K has a radius of 4 millimeters. Circle L has an area of 100 pi millimeters squared. What is the total area of circles K and L? Okay. 10. So area of a circle is pi r squared. So the area of K is pi times 4 squared. So that's 16 pi. And circle L has an area of 100 pi. So 116 pi. Yeah, cool. Easy. Okay. There's all sorts of ways you can do this, but again, I use the first module of math to recharge my brain. I'm not worried about timing. I know I'll be in very good shape there, so that's just something you get comfortable with practice. So I'm going to use Desmos in so many situations out of laziness so that I don't have to think. I can just see. So here's my value of x, right? So -4, and they want 4 minus 3x. So 4 minus 3 times -4 is 16. Now I will absolutely come back to this question at the end and try to maybe do it with some more algebra, if I've got the time, when my brain's a little bit more rested, things like that. Yeah. Okay, triangle. Okay, I always draw these triangles. So here's how I do it. So triangle, da-da-da. Okay, so there's right angles here. Okay. G and K are right angles. So G and K, I'm going to draw them on the same triangle. So F corresponds to J. F and J, leaving me with H and L. FGH, JKL. Yeah. If sine of F, so here's F, is 308 over 117. So SOHCAHTOA, sine of F is opposite. So that's 308. Hypotenuse is 317. What is the value of sine of J? Same thing. 308, 317. Same angle. So you just draw these out. Just see it because they're always easy. You just gotta see it and make sure you don't make a mistake. I feel like I've seen this question before. A wire with a length of 106 inches is cut into 2 parts. One part is the length of x and the other is y. So 106, x and y. Y. The value of x is 6 more than 4 times the value of y. What is the value of x? Okay. So the value of x, so x equals 6 more than 4 times the value of y. 4y plus 6. Okay. So why don't I just do, okay, 4y plus 6 plus y is equal to 106. So 5y is 100, y is 20. They want x, so 86. So let me just see if that makes sense. So value of x is 6 more than 4 times value of y. So if y is 20, 86 is that, and 86 and 20 is 106. Yep, okay. certain township consists of a 5-hectare industrial park and a 24-hectare neighborhood. The number of trees in the township is that. The equation represents this situation, which is the best interpretation of X. So X has to do with the industrial park. So no and no. It's a 5-hectare industrial park and a 24-hectare neighborhood. The total number of trees. So that's the number of hectares. So X is the number of trees per hectare. Yeah. So I'm having a moment here. I'm pretty sure I've seen this exact question with, I think it was different numbers. And so I have a feeling I have a video already for this question, but it's got different numbers. So I'm going to have to redo the whole video just for the different numbers. College Board loves to just make it harder for no reason. Just a little stab. And speaking of harder for no reason, is it just me? I can't read that. Look at these little shrimpy little numbers. Okay. All right, so this is purely just understanding how to convert each of these into a fraction. So A is going to be, 12 is 132 over 12. Is that going to be equal to 11 over 12? No. B is 132 over 144. That's probably 11 over 12. So 132 divided by 12 is 11. So that's definitely it. But let's move on and just double check. So this would be 132 over 121. That's 12 over 11. And this is, 132 over 11. No. See, this is the kind of thing where if you just know one simple rule, formula, whatever you want to call it, easy points. Okay. All right. Just graph it. F of x equals x minus 6, x minus 2, x plus 6. Make sure you typed it right. X minus 6, x minus 2, x plus 6. Okay. G is translating the graph of f of x 4 units up. So you got to know that that means that we are taking f of x and we're adding 4 to the outside of it. And what is the value of g of 0? G of 0 is 76. Sure, I can find another way to do this, but I'm not unsure. I mean, I trust the process here. I typed everything right. This would just be to come back and check. Perfect. Y equals 4x plus 1. 4y equals 15x minus 8. Okay, somewhere down here they're crossing. There it is. So they are crossing. I'm going to write this down. 17. They're crossing at negative 12, negative 47. And we need to do x minus y. So that's negative 12 minus negative 47. Negative 12 minus 47. 35. All right, don't lose that negative. That's kind of what I was worried about. I could do this with algebra too. So maybe we'll come back and do it with algebra later. Okay, this is a thing with this and this and this, which defines the best interpretation of y-intercept. Y-intercept is where x is 0, x is t. So it's something at 1998, right? Because that's the starting point. Number estimated of coupons the company sent to their customers at the end of 1998. No. The estimated number of coupons was 8,000 because you plug in 0, you get 8,000. Is there any twist here? No. Oh, okay. It's definitely an arithmetized question. So let's do that. I feel like I could probably use x as 1. A landscaper uses a hose that puts 88 ounces of water in a bucket in 5y minutes. So can they both be 1? So which expression represents the number of ounces of water the hose puts in the bucket in 9 minutes? Okay, so this is just 88 ounces in 5 minutes. How many ounces, or, you know, it's a fake X, so let's do Z ounces in 9 minutes. Okay, so times 9 times 9, cross out. So 9 times 88 divided by 5 is 158.4 is Z. So now we go to the choices. Which one gives me that? So A is 9 divided by 440. That's not going to be 158. B is 440 divided by 9. I don't think that's going to be right. Yeah, 48 something. No. C is 5 over 792. No way. And this is 792 divided by 5. I hope so. 158.4. So much easier when you arithmetize. No reason not to. You got to recognize it instantly. You got letters in the choices, letters in the question. None of them matter. Get rid of them. All right. Desmos to the rescue. Square root of x minus 2 squared equals square root of 3x plus 34. Okay, so what is the smallest solution? It's this, -3, because the other one is up here, 10. And there's nothing out here, clearly. And there's only going to be really 2 solutions because it's some sort of quadratic-y thing going on. So -3 feels right. I'm going to come back and maybe do some algebra here just for fun. But yeah. All right. 21. Triangle XYZ. So there's no right angles here. X, Y, Z is similar to triangle RST such that XYZ corresponds to RST. R, S, T. The measure of angle Z is 20 degrees. And 2XY equals RS. What's the measure of angle T? It's 20. This has nothing to do with anything. This is just a pure distraction. Pure trap. Plug points into equations. Okay. Yeah, you could do this with Desmos too, but we're going to do without. So if g of x equals f of x plus 2, which of the following equations defines the function g? So I want to plug in 0 to the choices, which means that if I do g of 0, what I'm really doing is f of 2. So g of 0 is f of 2. And f of 2 is going to be 9 times 4 squared. So 9 times 16. 9 times 16, 144. So A, B, C, D, plug in 0. This would give me 18. This would give me 144. This would give me 18. This would give me 81. B. Cool. And again, we'll do this with Desmos, but let's go back to the beginning. I mean, this is a joke. If you know how to do math and you know how to use the calculator, the first module is a joke. If you're struggling with the first module, my biggest piece of advice is just go back and learn algebra. Like, not even because I'm doing a lot of algebra, but because like you should understand there's something wrong with the way you think about it. Like there's something that's slowing you down, right? But watch, this is something I did algebra with before, right? I plugged it in, but you can also just type it into Desmos. And if you're worried about your math ability, 8x plus 1, right? Look, now g of 3 is 5. It just tells you, right? So I hate how I wish I could adjust this to an exact size, right? That I want, because I want this to go, I want this to be longer. I don't like when this stupid thing pops up. If anyone knows how to do that, tell me. How do I get this to go away once it's popped up? How do I make it disappear? I guess I click. So yeah, there you go. But anyway, point is, right? Like, if you understand how Desmos works, it just kind of tells you answers sometimes. Everything I've done here is basic memorization. Yeah, all right, so here I'll do some algebra. This one I went to the calculator for before. Now we're going to do some algebra. Because if you are going to check your work, you should check your work using a different method than you did before. But that way, if you made a mistake the way you did it before, you have a new way to do it. Now with this, what most of you are going to do is try to solve for x naturally by distributing and getting all that together. You can, but you can also recognize that what they want is 4 minus 3x. So if we subtract 4 minus 3x, right, if we keep all this together, notice that it lines up really nicely with this on the other side. This is the kind of deep algebra thinking that most people can't do. Because if we do this, we end up with just 4 minus 3x. In fact, I'll put the 1 out front. Then I got to get this 2 out of here, this 2 out of here, or gone, this is gone, and that leaves me with 16, which is what I got. But if you were to do all the distribution and everything like that, it would still work. You just got to make sure you remember to do the last step. Because let's think, if I were to subtract 4, I would get 12, and then divide by -3. 12 divided by -3 is -4. So x is -4. So this is a trap right here. Of course they're going to do that. You can't fall for that ever. So again, why are we getting things wrong? Because we don't know algebra, we don't know how to read instructions. If you're prepared for the SAT, the first math module should be really easy. I did this with Desmos before, but we can, since they're asking for g of 0, that's an x-intercept, or y-intercept. So if I did f of 0, right, I would have 0 minus 6, 0 minus 2, 0 plus 6. So -6, -2, 6. So -36, or this is positives. So 12 times 6 is 72. Then it's moved up 4 units, 76. More algebra. Again, I did this on the calculator before. So y equals 4x plus 1. So we're going to substitute 4 times 4x plus 1 equals 15x minus 8. So 16x plus 4, distribute, is 15x minus 8. Subtract 15x, subtract 15x, subtract 4, gone, gone, x equals -12. Okay, and then we got to go back. So then y is equal to 4 times -12 plus 1. So y is equal to -48 plus 1, which is -47. And then we do x minus y. So x minus y is -12 minus -47. I remember writing that down before. So -12 plus 47 is the same as 47 minus 12, which is 35. Same answer. Now that, see how smooth that was? That's the kind of algebra you really need to be able to do for when it gets to the crazy hard stuff, because then you might not be able to avoid algebra and you just have to have a comfort with it. But I think another reason people struggle with algebra is they never learn their times tables. They never learn their addition tables. They don't know how to do that quick mental math. And so you're balancing like what the algebra steps are, but you're also reaching for that calculator and interrupting your train of thought constantly. So, sometimes you want to get better at the SAT, just make sure you know the times tables. You can't hesitate or be wrong on anything basically in the 10 by 10 times tables. What else you want to do, Mike? Let's go to here again. Ooh, you want to see how crazy algebra is? If we don't know the calculator just solves this for us. So we would have to square both sides. So you'd get x minus 2 squared is equal to 3x plus 34. So that's x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 3x plus 34. We would subtract, we would subtract, we would subtract, we would subtract. X squared minus 7x minus 30 is 0. Can I factor? Probably. X minus 10 plus 3. So x is 10. X equals -3. Now in math class in school, you have to go back and double check that those are not extraneous solutions. So we would do radical 10 minus 2 is 8. So radical 8 squared is equal to radical 30 plus 34 is 64. So yeah, 8 squared, 64. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's the 10. And then the negative 3 would be radical negative 5 squared equals radical negative 15 plus 34. So radical 25 is equal to 35, I mean 19, whoa, negative 3. I don't know what I'm doing. Negative 9 plus 34. This is why you don't do algebra. Look at that. Complaining about not knowing your multiplication tables. I plugged in the wrong thing in my head. 34 minus 9 is 25. Yeah, good. So smallest number, right? Negative 3. So if you put 10 here, you got to just read the question. Now this one we did solve with plug points and equations. Let's do this with Desmos. F of x equals 9 times 4 to the x. Okay, so there's my thing. G of x is equal to f of x plus 2. Okay, so now I got a new thing, and I need to know which one is the same as that. So I don't care about this black one anymore. So let's keep the red, and then let's try all the choices. So, well, let's try the one that works. 144, 4 to the x is the same thing. Look at that overlap. Beautiful. But if we went to a different one, like choice A, different thing. Choice C, different thing. Choice D, different thing. I mean, there's enough time here to do the entire section twice. So, you know, I don't mean to put anyone down who's struggling with this, but if you can't get through this first section and be perfect, more than just improving your score, that should be your goal, because you're really only going to get maybe one weird question in this first section. And even still, a lot of this is plug points into equations. If you get some bad luck and it's a weird like percentages question, geometry question, yeah, that could throw you off. But you're going to have minutes, like several minutes to work on it. So really, if you just are comfortable with the basics of math on the SAT, you should be getting into the hard module with 0 errors here. And then, yeah, the hard module is going to be hard. But if you're making any mistake in this first module, I don't know. I mean, it's possible I did. I'm talking too soon, but it's possible I did something wrong. 3x squared plus 7x minus 8 looks good. 16p. Yep. Okay. Divide by 7. Did that one. Probably the second student whose vote for new maths was a lion. So 20 out of 80, 1 over 4. We did this one already twice. Positive y-intercept, negative slope. It's the only one that has that. We didn't do this one algebraically. Let's add them. So 6, or subtract. So 3x plus 6 equals 4y. 3x plus 4 equals 2y. So you got to subtract, but you got to distribute. So this goes 6 minus 4 is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So y is 1. Right, so it takes no time at all to do the algebra, but if you mess it up, then you've taken no time at all to get the wrong answer. So what good is that? Maximum is 14. This one we did, 16 plus 100. This one I solved twice already. Drew this. Did this twice. 5 was the x, average number of trees per hectare. So then you multiply by 5 to get the total number of trees in the 5-hectare industrial park. Nothing really you can do wrong here. Did this one. Did this one. 8,000 is a y-intercept. Did this one very confidently. I mean, it wouldn't make a difference if you did it. If you did it with the x's and y's, but just so much better to do without. Did this one. This one's easy. Yeah. All right. Well, I got 6 minutes where I would just, you know, If it was the real test, I guess I go back again. I don't know. We're getting to the point where it's a little ridiculous, but you know, I went slow this entire time as well. So many of you who are really shooting for those top math scores, my advice is you try to treat the math. You want to get to a point where you can treat the first math module as a rest period, right? You're still thinking, you're still working. You don't want to make careless mistakes and misread things, but you can also move at a slower pace and you rely on Desmos more. You're not really interested in efficiency. You're trying to save your brain from when we need it in the hard module. So that's kind of what I did here. And I still have plenty of time to spare. So let's take a break and then we will get to the hard module. All right, let's just get into it. Hard module. Here we go. Let's see. I mean, I'm not expecting much. So let's see, what is the median? So are these in the right order from least to greatest? Yes, they are. So cross out 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, or 4. I think it's 79, but you know what? This is a good example of like, I can barely even see it on the screen. So we're just gonna write it 74, 75, 77, 79, 82, 84, 85, 91, cross out, 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 79. Just be sure, be thorough. Okay. 2. Right triangles LMN. LMN angle M has a measure, so M is here, 53. L and M correspond to P and Q. So Q is up here too. So Q is 53. Cool. Yeah, there they don't tell us what the right angle is. So you can't fill out everything. But as soon as they say L and M correspond to P and Q respectively means just to keep the same order. So M and Q both 53. Awesome. Okay, the table shows table A is a constant. What is the value of A? So go ahead and I just plug points into equations here, right? So A is my Y value, 4 times 2 to the third plus 3. 4 times 8 plus 3. You got to remember the order of operations, or just let the calculator do it for you. 35. Yeah, I mean, I'll come back to this and put it in the calculator, but feels fine. How many solutions? Okay, so these are 2 lines and they both have the same slope. So same slope means that they have either 0 or infinitely many, and they also have the same y-intercept because there's no y-intercept plus 0. So they have infinitely many solutions. Model predicts that the population of Bergen, model also predicts that the next year the population increased by 4% of the previous year's population. Okay. So X is the number of years after 2005. So 2005 is my starting point. So 15,000 needs to be on the outside. And for open formula reasons, if it's increasing by 4%, it's going to look like this. What's value of A plus B? So this just seems like plug points into equations, or let's just let Desmos do it. So Y equals 4x plus 28. So we have A plus B, which means we have to add them. So 6, we have an x-intercept. So that's A is -7. And B, the y-intercept should be 28, right? Because that's how it's built. There you go, 28. What is the value of A plus B? So -7 plus 28 is 21. Again, use a calculator if you need to. 28 minus 7 is 21. Cool. Okay. So tiny. I hate this. Let's just arithmetize. Okay. 7. X is greater than 7. So X is 8. So we have 64 times 1 minus 3 times 1 over 16 minus 14. So that's 64 minus 3 is 61 over 2. Okay, so that's my answer. A is going to be 1 over 5. No. B is going to be 64 minus 3 over 2. That looks good. C is going to be 64 times 8, x is 8, so 64 times 8 is 512 minus 24 minus 14 all over 2. So this is a huge number. I'm not going to bother calculating it. That's just huge. Way bigger than 61. So then D is the same thing. 512 minus 24 minus 14, or minus 77 over the 2 again. 16 minus 14. So this is still huge. This is still way bigger than 61. So it's B. I could do this with algebra later if I had more time. Yeah. Okay, so anytime they give you something and they're missing a key piece of information, right? Circles don't have radiuses of 3n. They're not asking me to solve for n, so n is a positive constant, so how about n is just 1? So circle A is a radius of 3, and we want to compare the areas. So area is pi r squared. So the area of A is pi times 3n, so 3 squared. So that's 9 pi. The area of B is pi times 129 squared. So that is 129 squared is 16,641 pi. B is how many times? So divide this by 9. 1849. Definitely easy to arithmetize and just remove the complexity by getting rid of the n. Okay. A circle has center O and points R and S lie in the circle. And okay, R and S. So we're making a triangle, and ROS is 88. What is the measure of RSO? So here. So these are equilateral, or isosceles, because it's radiuses. So whatever that is, it's 180 minus the 88, which is 92. 92. And then that is split in half because we have R and S. So divided by 2 is 46. Okay, let me just make sure I read everything right. Triangle OR. So ROS is 88. RSO, 180 minus 88, 92, split it in half. Yeah, good. Okay. A business owner plans to purchase the same model of chair. Oh, I've seen this one. Okay, 14,000, 7% sales tax. Maximum possible price per chair before the sales tax. Okay. Why don't we just guess and check? Right? So the maximum, we should start with D. So that way, if that is the maximum, we don't overshoot it. So 184.94. You got to buy 81 of them. Right? So 184.94 times 81 is 14,980.14. We can't go over 14,000 though, and we haven't even included the tax, so we're already over. C, 172.84 times 81 chairs. 172.84 times 81 chairs is already over 114,000. Nope, no tax even included. So 161.53 times 81. 161.53 times 81 is 13,083.93. Now we need to include the tax, which defines the maximum possible price per chair before sales tax. So we need to include the 7%. So we're going to multiply this by 1.07 and see what we get. 1399. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Just below budget. I'll come back to that if I've got time. There's probably an equation I can generate there to represent that, but I guess and check, way to go. It's just so much easier to think about. Right triangle. Okay, right triangle has legs with lengths of 24 centimeters and 21. Okay. So 24, 21. The length of this triangle's hypotenuse is 3 root d. What is the value of d? Okay, so little Pythagorean theorem. 21 squared plus 24 squared equals 3 root d squared. You got to make sure you square all of that. So 21 squared, 441. 24 squared, 576 equals 9d. So 441 plus 576 is 1017. Divide by 9, d equals 113. Okay. I mean, seems fine. I mean, I'm sure I could check this, but perfect. Little open formula. Positive number A is 250% of the number B, and A is 60% of the number C. If C is P% of B, okay, you just gotta pick numbers here. Okay. You can go so many different ways here. A is 60% of the number C, right? And if C is P% of B, so B should be 100 if we can do it. B is 100. So the positive number A is 230% of the number B. So let's use the regular open formula because it's the of. So A of, it's telling me the original, so that's 100 because that's B. And then the percent is 230%, right? That is a decimal, and that's the value of A. So 230, right? I mean, am I just being stupid here? 2.3 times 100, 230. So A is 230. Yes, right? Because if it said if A is 70% of 100, then we would just say A is 70. So that makes sense. Okay. And A is 60% of the number C. So again, A is 60% of the number C. So C is my original. 60% is 0.6. And A, which we now know is 230, is the new value. A is 60% of C. So C is the original. So we divide by 0.6, divide by 0.6. C is 230 divided by 0.6 is 383.3. Repeating. Closest, that allows us to do it. And then they want to know which of the following is close to the value of P, because if C is P% of B, right? So 383 is 383% of 100. And we can prove that by doing another open formula, right? So we would do C is P% of B. So 383.3 of B. So B is 100, and we don't know the value of P. So you're dividing, P is 3.833, but then that's as a decimal, so you have to multiply it by 100 again to get back to a percent, so 383%. Possible I messed up, but I know what I'm doing, I guess. I've seen this question. This is a good example. If you got it wrong and fell for the trap the first time, hopefully, if you see it again, if this is your second time seeing this question, you don't fall for the trap. So f of x equals 201% of x, which the following could describe this. So it's definitely an increase. And so they want you to think it's an exponential. But if we just write that, then f of x equals 201%, so write that as a decimal, 2.01, of means multiply. This is not an exponential. There's no exponent. It's just, like just think of it. If f of x equals 201% of 1, then you would have 2.01. And then 201% of 2, you would just 2.01 times 2, right? You just multiply by the value. So it's an increasing linear. And it's sneaky that they put that right after this question, where a lot of you are going to be thinking percents and exponentials, and then boom, you get hit with this. This is another question I've seen before. So 14. The y-intercept the line is k minus 5b, where k and b are constant. What's the value of b? So, okay. So every y-intercept has to have an x-coordinate of 0. So k minus 5 has to be 0. So k has to be 5. What is the value of b? Okay. do a regression. I'm kind of lazy here. So k is 5, we said. So this is 5, 13, and 5 plus 7 is 12, negative 15. And then see how it has this button here? We're going to add the regression. It's going to add a line by default. It's going to tell me the line, negative 4x plus 33. So they want the y-intercept. So that's 33. And we can confirm that by that. Yeah, I'll come back to this and do this with some algebra later if I need to, but yeah, regressions are good. Keenan made 32 cups of vegetable broth. Keenan then filled x small jars and y large jars with all the vegetable broth he made. The equation 3x plus 5y equals 32 represents this situation, which is the best interpretation of 5y. So y has to do with the large jars. So if it's not about the large jars, I don't care, right? So small, small. So 5y, y is the number of large jars. So that's not what a is, because they're saying y is the large jar. So 5y is the total number of cups in the large jars, because then you're multiplying by the 5. Boom. That's kind of easy for number 15 in the hard module. That, I don't know, maybe I guess people will get confused by that, but all right. One of the two equations of the system is given. The system has no solutions. So which of the following could be the second equation? So this is purely, to me, I mean, we could graph this, no problem, but this is so easy to manipulate. If they have no solutions, then they need to have the same slope and different y-intercepts. So 3x equals 36y minus 45. It's kind of a little annoying. So 36y equals 3x plus 45. So divide by 36, divide by 36, divide by 36. So let's just leave it at that for now. But these are the slopes and y-intercepts. Okay. So if I had a, that would be y is equal to 1/4 x. So completely different slope. B would be y is equal to 1/3 x times 1/4. So that's 1/12. That's what this is, 1/12. So that seems right. It's a different y-intercept too as well. C is 1/12. So y, or let's just do it this way. So x plus 15 equals 12y, divide by 12, divide by 12, divide by 12. So that's 1/12. That part checks out. 15 over 12. How would I reduce this? If I were to divide by 9 goes into 45 5 times, and here 4. Divide by 3, this becomes 5, and this becomes 4. So this is infinitely many solutions. It's a trap. And it's so 1/3 x plus 15 equals 12y. Well, if we were to multiply by 1/12, this would be wrong. So it's B. I could have just done that in Desmos probably faster. That was maybe foolish. But we'll come back to it. Okay, A is a constant. So let's make A a number, because it doesn't matter. So it's greater than 30. So how about A is 31? And let's graph it so we can see the solutions. Okay. X minus 29 equals X, and let's keep it as A so I can add a slider. X minus 29. A is equal to 31. Okay. So we get some lines here. So solutions, right? So we see them at 32 and 29, right? So using my number, A, Roman numeral 1 is 31, 2 is 31 plus 1 is 32, and 3 is 29. So 29 checks out, 32 checks out, 2 and 3. Yeah. So is there any chance? So 1 is definitely wrong. So yeah, there you go. I'm not going to redo that one. Okay, so this is, I don't know that I've seen this question before, but I've seen this exact type of question, right? Anytime they're giving you a story, especially near the end of a hard module, you gotta be aware that they're gonna try to trick you in a couple ways. So you wanna be arithmetizing here, right? Plug points into equations. We see that we have equations in the questions. You really wanna put in a number for W. 1 gallon of stain will cover 170 square feet of a surface. A yard is a total fence area of W square feet. Which equation represents the total amount of stain in gallons needed to stain the fence in this yard twice? Right, okay. So let's just say 1 gallon will cover 170 square feet. So let's say then that there's 170 square feet on the fences. So that means we need 1 gallon to stain it. And then we're doing it twice. So we actually need 2 gallons. Right? So if I'm plugging points into equations, my point is 170 for W and 2 for the S. So what choice matches that? Well, A would be 170 over 170, which is 1. No. B would be 170 times 170. Crazy big number. No. C would be 340 times 170. Crazy big number. And D would be 170 divided by 85, which we're going to verify, but I'm pretty much guaranteed to make it 2. 2. You gotta just, if you are in any way hesitating that you're going to put points in here, you're not thinking about the SAT the right way. Notice how quick it was. It was instantaneous. I didn't even read the question. I looked at the answer choice and I was like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to do. You have to think like that, like me in that. All right. I'm going very leisurely here. Next, by playing the graph, intersects the line, y equals c. Okay, so let's just see it. If this wasn't a guessing check, I'd have to use the discriminant, but let's just do it. Y equals negative x squared plus 9x minus 100, and y equals about negative 481 divided by 4. So they need to intersect at exactly 1 point. Where are you? Oop. I want to curse at Desmos, but I don't want the video to get flagged. All right, here we go. So no, that's 2 points. Negative 100. 2 points. Negative 319 over 4. That looks like 1. Let's try the other. 9 over 2. Yeah, 0. Easy. I'd come back to this, maybe do the discriminant if I've really got time, but yeah, okay. All right, that looks like a pain. Let's do this one instead. 21. Area of a rectangular region increasing at a rate of 250 square feet per hour, which the following is close to square meters per minute. Okay, so we just need to make a chart. So we have 250 feet squared per 1 hour. Okay, and we need square meters per minute. So first of all, 1 hour is 60 minutes. That gets rid of this. That gets rid of this. Square meters per minute. So per minute, how many meters squared? Now the problem is these squareds. People are going to forget about this, but look where we are, number 21. You know there's going to be some little twist. So 1 meter is 3.28 feet. Now that crosses out feet with one of the feet here, and it crosses out meters with one of the meters, but there's another one, so we got to do it again. So 1 meter is 3.28 feet. Just do it again. Now feet completely gone, meters completely gone. Everything's gone, multiply down. So 250 times all of these ones is 250. 60 times 3.28. 3.28 times 3.28 times 60 is 645.504x. And we're going to divide. So 250 divided by that crazy thing is 0.387 or whatever, 0.39. Yeah, I might come back and just make sure my arithmetic is right, but otherwise that process is perfect. Oh, I've seen this question too. Oh, there's so many repeats on this test. Okay. Which form also represents a pair of perpendicular lines? Okay, so I need to know the values of A and B. Let's do that first, right? So 5x plus 7y equals 1. So I will understand perpendicular lines when I'm back in y equals mx plus b form. So minus 5x minus 5x. 7y is equal to negative 5x plus 1. Divide by 7, divide by 7, divide by 7. I only care about the slope. So negative 5/7 is perpendicular to 7/5. So 7/5 is, I should rearrange the other one. That's the slope I care about. And this would be by equals negative ax plus 1. So y divided by b, divided by b, divided by b is equal to negative a over b plus this other thing. I care about this. So this is equal to negative a over b. So let's say a is negative 7 and b is 5. Right? So that's confusing because they're adding a negative and yet it's not there and all that stuff. But let's just now go to Desmos and just see this stuff for what it is. Right? So a is negative 7. B is 5. So that way I don't have to worry about typing them in. Right? So there you go. And then 10x plus 7y is 1. So that's that's choice A. And ax minus 2by equals 1. Clearly not perpendicular. So choice B has the same top equation, but now the bottom equation is a plus. So let's flip that to a plus. Those look pretty perpendicular to me. Let's just try the others just to make sure. So this is a 2ax plus by. Those don't look perpendicular. And I can tell that it'll look perpendicular because I'm centered on the origin. I've hit that home button. Everything is well balanced. Look at all these little squares, right? Since these look like squares, we know the whole thing is a square. So that doesn't work. And this is just completely different. 5x minus 7y equals 1. And this is ax plus by equals 1. Clearly not perpendicular. Yeah. So just, yeah. There's probably a faster way to do this other part, but super easy to just, I don't know, at least do this part without that stuff. I guess the problem is I could have maybe messed up my A and my B. Well, let's just check to see if I did, right? So, I got rid of it. Crap. So what did I say? A is negative 7 and B is 5. So 5x plus 7y equals 1. So this is my original thing. And ax plus by equals 1. Yeah, perpendicular. Perfect. So I'm confident I did it right. Good. Okay. Clear. Okay. What do we need to do? I skipped one here. All right. The quadratic function g models the depth in meters below the surface of the water of a seal t minutes after the seal entered the water during a dive. The function estimates the seal reached its maximum depth, so depth, vertex, of 302.4 meters 6 minutes after it entered. So 302.4. And then reach the surface of the water. So surface, so that's going to be, right, something is equal to 0, 12 minutes. So x is t, and this is depth, right? So the depth at the surface is 0, and so 12 minutes is that. Based on the function, what was the estimated depth to the nearest meter of the seal 10 minutes after it entered the water? Okay. So we would just need to, I could do a regression here, I guess. Let's see what happens. Right, so these are the points, 6, 302.4, and 12, 0. And then I'm going to hit this thing, and we want a quadratic regression. So that's what it's doing. I don't know what's going on 10 minutes after it entered the water. So it's clearly very high up. So I don't, I think I can do this. It's going to put it there. And what if I just made this f of x, and then I did f of 10, 168. Okay. What else do I want to do here? let's plug points into equations. I'm going to try this a different way. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm pretty sure this is going to work, but I'm going to plug points into equations. I know that the equation for the vertex is x minus h squared plus k with that a out in front. So I've got all the pieces I need. I have a y, which is 0. I don't have the a, but I do have an x, which is 12. I do have the h, which is 6 squared, and k is 302.4. So we can solve for a. A is 36 plus 302.4. So negative 302.4 is 36a. So a is 302.4 divided by 36 is 8.4, negative 8.4. And that is what they gave me. That's a good sign. So if now I have the full equation, which is y equals negative 8.4 x minus 6 squared plus 302.4, and I want to know what's going on 10 minutes. So y is equal to negative 8.4 times 10 minus 6 squared plus 302.4. So y is equal to negative 8.4 times 4 squared, which is 16, plus 302.4. Negative 8.4 times 16 is negative 134.4 plus 302.4. 168. Cool. That's a good question. I love that regression. Really works nicely. All right, we got plenty of time. What do I want to work on? Anything? Let's go back. Let's go to 19 again. What was that all about? Oh, we can do this algebraically too. I mean, I know I'm right, but so I need to do c is equal to negative x squared plus 9x minus 100. You got to minus this. Let's actually add everything over this way. So we're going to get x squared minus 9x plus 100 plus c equals 0. And we need exactly 1 point they need to meet. So b squared minus 4ac. So negative 9 squared minus 4a. That's a 1. Oh my God. C, which is 100 plus c, is equal to 0. So 81 minus 400 minus 4c equals 0. So 81 minus 400 is negative 319. So negative 319 equals 4c, and divide by 4, and we're good. Cool. I'm good with that. I should have just graphed this. Let's just see. This will take me 2 seconds to check. 3x equals 36y minus 45. Has no solution. So 1/3 x equals 4y. Yeah, they look pretty parallel. Good enough. Right, so k is 5. So if we were to build the equation of a line, we would need the slope. So we have 13 minus negative 15 over 5 minus 12. So that is 13 plus 15, which is 28, over negative 7. So that's negative 4. So 13, y equals mx plus b equals negative 4. X is 5 plus b, so 13 equals negative 20 plus b, so add 20, 33 is b. Same answer. Cool. I feel good about that. I feel good about that. I mean, what would my equation be here? It would be something like 81x, that's the total cost of the chairs, times 1.07 for the sales tax is less than or equal to 14,000. So we would take 14,000, divide by 1.07, divide by 81, and you get x is 161.53. So there you go. If you pulled out an x minus 7, you'd have a 2 times x minus 7. Those are all crossed, so 8x minus 3 over 2. Yeah. Y equals 4, 2 to the x. I'm going to get it in. And what do we need to do? X is 3, 27. 35 at the buzzer. Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, my impression of this is you're not really going to get huge advantages, maybe if you've seen some of these math questions before. But I would say that so much of the math for both modules is just going to come from repetition. If you are learning, if you are reviewing these questions in the right way and thinking strategically about things, looking for opportunities to avoid algebra, make algebra easier, then this becomes so routine. I mean, you might be able to tell if I don't feel like, if it doesn't seem like I have a lot of energy as I'm doing these modules, it's not because I'm tired, it's because I'm bored. There isn't very much excitement in this. If you can really master the math to a point where it becomes routine. You know, like I said, I've seen some of these questions before. Maybe that gives you a little bit of a sense of where the traps might lie or what the process is going to be, but so little of what I was using here was my memory of the questions. It's more that even if I've seen a slightly different question, that the overall moves are the same. So I feel like that's an important thing for the math, is like it becomes very routine if you're thinking strategically and you're able to look at a question and just know exactly what the topic is right away. And I get that that's hard for some things, but you know, hopefully I showed you through me doing it that there's almost no latency, almost no wait time between me looking at a question and deciding what to do. Maybe one or two per test I have to go like, oh, this is weird, but everything else is so routine, and it's just mostly about the time it takes me to do it. I use the scratch paper, so I'm not making careless mistakes. You know, I don't feel like I was moving at a particularly fast pace here. I was very leisurely, and I still have plenty of time. So let's see. You know, obviously, maybe I made a mistake somewhere that I didn't pay attention to. So we'll see in literally a second when I do the scores whether or not I'm, you know, just talking when I shouldn't. So let's see. And there it is, 1600. I would have been annoyed if I did not get a 1600 on this one. I just felt as I was going through it, I knew everything I was doing. Even on the reading section, there really wasn't too much that I was unsure of. You know, maybe one or two that I recognize are hard. And I definitely remember saying in certain places, people are going to get this wrong. So don't feel bad if you kind of fell into the traps that I predicted. But you know, through experience, I saw them coming. I don't necessarily think this is an easier test than number 7 or number 8. It's just that I saw all these traps. You know, so much of the SAT at a certain point comes down to a little bit of luck with which words you get, you know, on the vocab questions, which passages maybe just kind of throw you off. Maybe you get a weird math topic, right? So getting a 1600 versus a 1580, 1570 is really just pointless. It doesn't really matter. You know what you're doing either way. The colleges are happy either way. But for this one, I in particular felt like everything was very routine for people who know how to use the strategies and have a good vocabulary and a good pace with the passages. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I can show you, you can see obviously nothing is off here because nothing is wrong. And then this same thing, everything's here. You know, 0 incorrect. It's all good. So remember, you know, I guess this is just a reminder that even if you do really well in a practice test, you should still be reviewing quite a few questions. You know, I bookmark things as I went. You should be writing those bookmarks down somewhere on your scratch paper. The reason I didn't is I'm filming myself, so I have all those bookmarks. So if I wanted to, I would go back to the ones that I had trouble with, right? So I remember one of them was in here, right? Where's that? This one. This is the one I had trouble with, right? So If it's you, what you should do is you should eventually, when I've made the video, go and watch this video for this question, even if you got it right. That way you can see, like, what's the strategy? What is it? What's going on? What did I miss originally that might have made this question easier? So you always have to make sure you're taking tests with that in mind, that there are going to be questions you get right and wrong, and that's one dimension of your performance. But there are also going to be questions you get right by accident, or that you get right that you're not sure of, or that you get right but you took too long, or you're right that you used a weird strategy, right? And maybe there's a better one. So all of those things need to be going into your review. If you're only reviewing what you get wrong, then you are missing out on a lot of opportunities to improve. And maybe it's not going to improve the score that much, but it certainly can spill over, right? I mean, there are absolutely questions that you might get right very easily, but because you took too long on that question, you stumbled on that question, that spills over into later questions, right? Everyone focuses on the ones they get wrong, but a lot of the right and wrong in a practice test and a real test comes down to things that you're doing wrong on the ones you got right. So I hope that makes sense. I've got lots of videos on that, on how to review practice tests. But yeah, a lot of familiarity for me on this one. And let me know the scores. Let me know in your in the comments, please. Did you find this test a little bit easier or harder than the others? If you did get stuff wrong, was it the stuff that I kind of predicted? And also, if you're getting a bunch wrong, what is it doing to the score? I'm curious, if this is a test where if you got one wrong, it might have hurt you a lot because maybe it is a little easier overall, and that's how the curve works. The easier the test, the harder the curve. So you don't necessarily want an easy test. I think it's actually a good thing when the real test is a little bit harder than the practice test, because that means you're allowed to get more wrong answers probably and still do very well. It just means you have to not freak out when that happens, right? Because if you freak out, then you abandon your strategies, you abandon your pacing and sacrifice plans, and you end up kind of freaking out in ways that create wrong answers that there shouldn't be. And you can afford more wrong answers, but you don't want stuff that was preventable. So yeah, just let me know what you think. Let me know your impressions of this test, especially, for the people who had taken tests 1, 2, and 3 before they were discontinued, but also for the new people who never took those tests. Maybe it was a different experience for you. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Once again, I'm Mike Settele. And remember, when it comes to your scores, don't settle for less, Settele for more.